Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first round playoff edition. We're finally here, Spencer. Jason Lejeune alongside Spencer Ferret for our Gridiron Football Ballin in the Boot show. And Spencer's with the LHSA Network. We're really excited for having them coming on and talking about the playoffs. But, man, like we talked about on Friday, it's like Christmas Eve. Like, we're just waiting on Sunday. Okay, who's playing who, at where, who's number one seed, all that stuff. All that's figured out. The playoff brackets are released, and now let's go play some football.
Yeah, it's really good to have the brackets now, have a physical copy of what we're looking at instead of sitting there trying to figure out what we're going to do with each one. Honestly, I'm ready for us to go spot a ball and let's play some football. Got to wait a little bit to get there, but we got some great matchups in round one. I'm excited to see how the bracket shapes up. I think there's some really, really good teams in this state that could have some fun runs to the Dome, and it's going to be fun indeed to figure out who's going to end up there, and the chase for the Dome is on, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Spencer. We're going to start off first. We're going to start off with Division 4 Select, and we're going to talk about really the first number one seed. I like to talk about the number one seed and kind of like the path to the Dome, and we just saw them play last Thursday. Westminster Christian, a 10-0 undefeated season, first time since I believe 2011. They went undefeated district in 2016. Complimentary football. I mean, Coach Byron Porter's really preached about this, and we saw it in action for the district championship. Stephen George, a veteran quarterback, he's actually going to be one of the quarterbacks that will play in our bowl game at the end of the year for Westminster Christian. Their running back Kyle Horde, good luck trying to tackle this kid. I mean, 6'2", yeah. 220 pounds, and just talk about them. I mean, that's a really tough district that they won, and now they really are the deserving team to get the number one seed.
Yeah, no, indeed. I mean, you go through that district, there's not a lot of off days in that district. There's a couple of districts I like that, and that one at the bottom of the 1A is really tough to get through, and to be the number one seed is obviously something that they're really excited about. You look at the run that they're going to have to go through, it looks like it's a lot of guys from their district. You got Opelousas Catholic taking on Ascension Christian in that 16-17 matchup. OC wins that game. It sets up a rematch with Westminster. St. Edmund is the 9 seed who Westminster just knocked off this past Thursday. There's a lot of really, really good teams on their side of the bracket, though. Covenant Christian, we were talking about them a year ago. They were undefeated, and their one loss this year is it's not too bad at all. Mm-hmm. You look at it, and you're ready to see what they've got. I think the top 8 in this bracket are all really, really good. But Westminster right now, for me, stands just a little bit above the rest right now. But don't forget about old Hamilton Christian and Riverside Academy.
No, indeed. And the only loss this year was against St. John, and they're up here as well in the top 12. And these are your playoff matchups, at least for the first round. Westminster's got the bye. They'll play the winner of Opelousas Catholic, Ascension Christian, like you talked about, Spencer. You have St. Edmund playing Lincoln Prep. First round, Covenant Christian. The top 8 seeds will get a bye. Covenant Christian was able to get that coveted 8 seed to get the bye. Ascension Catholic will get a bye. They'll play the winner of St. John and St. Mary's. St. John is a district opponent, so that could be a rematch in the second round. Sacred Heart will play Westminster Christian of Lafayette. Catholic Point Capee will play that winner on the bottom side of the bracket. We have Hamilton Christian with the bye, the number 3 seed. They'll play the winner of St. Frederick and Cedar Creek. We have Kentwood Vermilion Catholic. Remember, that's a rematch of the semifinal matchup last year in Division 4. And you have Ascension Episcopal on bye, Washita Christian on bye, a lot of byes, so you mentioned in the select playoffs. And Washita Christian will play the winner of Southern Lab and Central Catholic. And finally, St. Martin's Episcopal will play Delta Charter first round. They'll play Riverside Academy. The winner of that game will play Riverside Academy, who has a bye. So, talking about Spencer, we'll talk about, we're going to take it round by round, but first round matchups, usually not a lot of spicy matchups, but is there a first round matchup here that you're kind of keeping an eye on if you're looking at this first round of the bracket?
Especially in the lower divisions, the top teams are the top teams for a reason. And you talked a little bit about the buys. I think, especially in Division 4s and maybe a little bit of Division 3, having those buys is so important for some of these teams because you only play so many players, you only have so many guys on the team. Having that buy can give them time to get healthy, get all the knocks and bruises off. But this is honestly, I think, in my opinion, this is a bracket that's going to have a lot of upper seeds winning this first round. A lot of the lower seeds are sneaking in. They're kind of coming off some huge wins. I know Westminster Lafayette just beat Vermilion Catholic, which was huge for them. Turn around, you got to play a good defensive Sacred Heart program that's playing some really good defense this year. I think the spice really starts to come for this bracket in the second round. You really get some good matchups. Just thinking off the rip, if Southern Lab can beat Central Catholic, they'll move on to play Washita Christian. And then you got to think that if all the top seeds are the ones that are winning, you got to think that the winner of that then has to play Riverside. Like that, that bottom little section right there is a really, really difficult run to go through. You look at Catholic Appoint-Compete and who they would have to play if all the top seeds end up winning. They play Ascension Catholic. That's another really good one. And Westminster against Covenant Christian. That is also a good one, like we talked about at the front. But I really like the top seeds to get it done in this bracket. It's just like they're a little bit head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty deep when you look at just the overall, numbers. The teams that do have a bye here, it would not shock me if you say, like, you make a case like, hey, they can make a run. It would not shock me, especially when you talk about Westminster. They're familiar with a lot of these teams in that district and vice versa. But, we'll kind of talk about it. We'll go over kind of like my quarterfinal, semifinal, and state championship. But, look at the top side of the bracket. Quarterfinal round. I'm kind of looking at Westminster, St. Edmund. We literally saw that game last week, and that could be a potential quarterfinal matchup if they can get past a Covenant Christian. That could be really interesting as well. But that could be a rematch. Ascension Catholic Appoint-Compete, but Ascension Catholic has to go through a St. John, which is a district team, district opponent potentially. That could be an option. So you're looking at that maybe at the top side of the bracket. You look at the bottom side of the bracket. Javon Vital, he's definitely, if there's a player to keep an eye on, watch about. Sure. It's definitely Javon Vital over at Hamilton Christian and Ascension Episcopal. I'm really intrigued if there's a first round matchup I'm keeping my eye on is Kentwood Vermilion Catholic because of the history last year. Kentwood's definitely very capable. Vermilion Catholic, they won they're defending state champs in this bracket. Could be a Kentwood, can come in as kind of like that Cinderella type of team, a double-digit seed that can make a run. Southern Lab's a double-digit seed.
They're another one as well. Those two right there, Kentwood and Southern Lab. You mentioned that too. That was my preseason picks to win this division. Obviously their seasons haven't gone the way they hope, but everything's in front of them at this point. And I think you're about to start mentioning that you see those two as teams that could possibly make a run from that double-digit mark. Those are two teams with a lot of history of being really good when it comes time for playoffs. It's just going to be about how they play on the night. Are they healthy enough at the time? And if they can string some wins together, you can become a really hot team really fast.
Oh yeah, Southern Lab, Washita Christian. That's gonna be a second round playoff matchup. We usually see that in the Superdome, but that'll be really cool if that is a second round matchup. And Southern Lab takes care of business against Central Catholic, and then Riverside Academy. Riverside Academy is a team that a lot of people have really. And I know we're going to talk about them as well, but can run the table and win the whole thing as well. I know Coach is really excited about this team, and I've seen this team in person against Episcopal, and they have a lot of offensive firepower too, and they can get some stops on defense as well. They are a complementary football team, and that could be we might see a Riverside Academy, Washita Christian, quarterfinal matchup.
The last two runner-ups in the Division II as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if I had to make a prediction, semifinal, I'm kind of looking at Westminster Christian. I mean, they're looking like they're number one seed, and to play a team potentially like Ascension Catholic with Trevin Simon and the running games and really getting going for them over the last couple of weeks. That could be a semifinal matchup. And on the bottom side, man, that's going to be an exciting one. I can see like a Hamilton Christian, Riverside Academy, 2 versus 3. Brock Bourgeois is a veteran quarterback for Riverside Academy, was in the Dome a couple years ago. And you look at Javon Vital and Hamilton Christian, man, that could be a really exciting semifinal matchup.
Oh yeah, I really agree with you as well. That seems to be, what I think right now is if we played it today and everything went right, that is what I think would happen. Obviously, we got to spot the ball and we got to play the games.
Sure.
But I really like that semifinal. Whoever wins that game out of Riverside and Washita Christian and Southern Lab, if that is the quarterfinal, you could say that you've earned your helmet stickers to get ready to play for a semifinal game. So I really got my eye on that bottom half of the bracket.
Me too.
Just to see who comes out of that bloodbath down there. And I really like Westminster to make a run and make it all the way to the Superdome. Just be interesting to see who they would play against.
Yeah, I mean, that bottom side of the bracket, you deserve it if you go to the Superdome, representing the bottom side of the bracket. I do agree with you. I do have Westminster going through. Now there's going to be some teams that can give them a good punch because, like you mentioned, there's some teams familiar with them. A team like St. Edmund, you have Sacred Heart, Catholic Point Capee. These are all teams that are familiar with Westminster, so I think that can throw a wrench in it. But I do like Westminster to go to the state championship game and to represent the bottom side of the bracket. After seeing them play this year, I like Riverside to go to the Superdome. Talking about Boogie Johnson, they got a lot of weapons. They got multiple running backs. Brock Bourgeois is a veteran quarterback, a senior quarterback, and defensively, I thought I was pretty impressed with them as well. And the thing is, what's scary about them, they can make it back the next couple of years because a lot of their best players are 8th graders and 9th graders. So, but it won't shock me. Javon Vital puts the team on his back and they get to the Dome. But I'm thinking that's what the state championships game is going to kind of look like. Yeah,
I agree with you as well. I think it could be the same sort of thing. Riverside's got a really, really talented program and a kind of a winning pedigree at that time to get through that bracket, but so does OCS. Right now I'm liking whoever makes it out of that bottom part to actually go on to win it all. I think if OCS can upset Riverside Academy, I think the Eagles would then be considered legit. A lot of people said that their schedule's weak and that last loss against Oak Grove might be the wake-up call that they needed, that, hey, look, we might think we're big and bad, but we got that loss on our schedule now. Let's go prove that we really are the big and bad boys. But yeah, I agree with you as well. I think that bottom side of the bracket is going to have the winner. It's either going to be OCS or Riverside, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and actually that's why I picked to win the state championship. I got Riverside winning the state championship this year. Like I mentioned a couple years ago, they were in it, and people were saying how they're going to replace Dedrick Lasty, but it seems like they got a lot of other guys that can step up and replace them, and they have. And I think that they're used to playing that big spotlight game as well. And Westminster, this is like really the first time kind of going through that. So I like the battle-tested team that's going to come out of that bottom side of the bracket. So I'm going to go with Riverside Academy win it all.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you as well. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking in my head between Washita and Riverside who would even win that quarterfinal. So, but I like whoever wins that one to kind of go through and win it all.
I agree with you there. So that is Division 4 Select, and we're going to talk about Division 4 Non-Select before we take our first commercial break. And with this bracket, I think it's kind of like last year, and it's crazy to say this because everybody had Haynesville win it last year, and it was South Plaquemines that won the state championship last year. And it's kind of the same storyline. Haynesville has totally dominated the playoffs. In the regular season the last couple of years. And you look at it, they've outscored opponents 518-72 this year, led by LSU commit Isaiah Washington. But they've lost back-to-back state championship games. So I think the main thing, they're the number one seed, they're 10-0. But Spencer, the team to really watch out for and to pay attention to has to be them because of what's happened in the Dome the last 2 years.
I agree with you. In 23 when they made it to the Dome, they played an Oak Grove team that was just bigger, faster, and stronger than them. Ran away with that one really quickly. And then last year, obviously, the game against South Plaque was a really good one where the offense just couldn't really get going the whole time. And a lot of that was thanks to the Hurricanes on defense and what they did. And, to lose 2 times in the Dome, I remember Coach said after last year, we're going to come down here and we're going to win one of these things eventually. They came in the season as the preseason favorite, and and they're entering the playoffs as the playoff favorite. They're Haynesville. They're all the way up there above Shreveport, but I can tell you now that they know that winning is perennial for them, and that getting to the Dome is the goal. And they've got some teams on there that can make it a little bit tougher, but they're as advertised as their Haynesville.
Absolutely, Spencer. So let's talk about that bracket and see how the road to the Dome is going to go through. Haynesville obviously has the bye. They will play the winner of Homer and Franklin. Haynesville and Homer, second round?
Yeah, a little Super Bowl in the second round.
For sure. Jonesboro Hodge, Coach Blankenship's been coaching our bowl game the last couple of years. He does an awesome job with the Tigers. They have North Central in the first round. They'll play the winner of Vinton and the Quincy. Vinton having a great season this year as well. North Louisiana heavy, right?
Yeah.
Logansport, they're the number 5 seed. They'll have number 28 Vardo. Don't leave out the Logansport Tigers for sure under Coach Kevin McGee. Welsh will take on Lake Arthur. We'll see how Lake Arthur plays after forfeiting the last game against LCA, and they'll get to play in the playoffs against Welsh in the first round. And then you have Grand Lake playing Montgomery. That could be a fun game. Both quarterbacks are really explosive. There could be a lot of points on the scoreboard in that first round matchup. They'll play the winner of Genneret's having a great season this year. Only one loss on the season. And you look at the bottom side of the bracket there, South Plaquemines.
Yep.
You'd think defending state champion will be talking a lot about South Plaquemines, but still not a lot of people talking about the Hurricanes, and that can make them really dangerous once again. They'll play the winner of West St. Mary and Bazille. Elton McKeown Lemoyne is the state's leading rusher this year, and he's put on quite a show. If there's a player to watch out in this bracket, it's definitely McKeown Lemoyne. I think he's going to go where Elton goes this year. They'll take on LaSalle. North Iberville, they did fall to Ascension Christian last week, but they're the number 6 seed, and they still get a home playoff game. They'll take on Arcadia, the 27 seed. East Feliciana's a scary team. When they get clicking, they are really good with Ryan Moore and company. They'll play Delcom in the first round. Faraday's another scary team that can make a run. They'll play Northeast. They'll host the Vikings in the first round of the playoffs. And then we have West St. John taking on General Trask. That could be a fun matchup there too. They'll take on Mangum. The winner of that game will take on Mangum in the first round. So the top side of the bracket, Spencer, before going to the bottom side, what do you see here when you break down this playoff bracket?
I see a lot of really fun first round matchups. Like you mentioned, Homer Franklin. I think that game's going to be really, really fun. Franklin's kind of been a sleeper team in this bracket the past couple of years. But that's a long travel up north to Homer. And especially if Homer wins, and that sets up a Homer Haynesville Super Bowl in the second round. That's going to be something that hopefully a lot of people would show out for. I know that the regular season game's huge, so that would be better. Jonesboro Hodge, like you mentioned, they're having a really, really good year on Coach Blankenship. They play the winner of the Vinton and DeQuincy, who actually just played each other in Week 10 for a district championship. It was a 21-17 game that Vinton won. It's really hard to beat a team twice, especially when it's that close. Don't count out DeQuincy yet. We got to see what happens in that first round.
It was close. It's hard to be a good team twice.
Yep, and like talked about, and we mentioned long drives. I looked it up earlier. Varnado to Logansport is almost 5 hours.
Home field's going to mean something there.
So this is the bracket that home field means so much in, and especially with Haynesville and South Plaque being a high seed, that's going to be tough. And like you mentioned, Welsh and Lake Arthur. What can Lake Arthur do coming off of that? I mean, that's two more district guys who played each other earlier this year, and it's like I said, tough to beat a team twice. And then Grand Lake Montgomery, you kind of mentioned explosive quarterbacks. Excited to see what Tough Street can do. Tough Street plays at
was it South?
Yeah, he plays at LaSalle. But Montgomery, the really explosive offense, had that game with Grant at the start of the year. So it'd be interesting to see how much defense is played in that one. On the bottom side of the bracket, like you mentioned, South Plaque at 3. Just lost that game to Newman, 28-0 in the district championship. Tell you what, those boys are going to be motivated heading into the playoffs. They want to make that right. West St. Mary having a pretty good year. Obviously they've got some big losses on there, but they can get a win and maybe get to play South Plaquemines, which is not too bad of a drive, which is kind of weird to say when you talk about South Plaquemines.
Right, and like they're separated from everybody else.
But I will say, if there's a team that is a lower seed that you want to watch out of these next 4, Elton, like you mentioned, state's leading rusher.
Right.
They can make a really, really good run together. And if they can win that game, then maybe they can beat North Iberville, and then you're looking at a quarterfinal game for Elton. Another team, like you mentioned, Eastville. I'm already looking at the second round matchup of Eastville and Faraday.
That's gonna be a fun one.
Right down the street from us, basically. That'd be a really, really good game to watch. Faraday's got a lot of athletes. Eastville's got some athletes too. That'd be really fun. West St. John, General Trask. Trask made a good run last year.
They
They were
did.
semifinalist as a 12 seed, kind of made the run. Ended up at Mangum, or not Mangum, but Haynesville fell short. But my team to watch is not the Haynesville.
It's not
Tornado.
Haynesville.
It's
Okay.
Mangum, man. Mangum's got a
Mangum,
really,
yep.
really good year this year under Coach Wilcher up there. He does a great job with that program.
He does.
And I feel like they're playing some really, really good ball. They're battle tested, which kind of has been the complaint we've had about Haynesville the past couple of years.
Yeah.
You look at their schedule, and you're like, man, they really haven't played anybody. Mangum's played the likes of OCS. They've played Oak Grove. They've played Faraday.
Yeah.
They've played Gina as well.
Yeah.
They've got a really, really tough schedule, which might be why they're at the number 2 seed. You play a tough schedule, you get rewarded for that. But what is important too is on the final day, South Plaquemine was a 2 seed.
Yep.
Mangum was at the 3 seed. Mangum won, South Plaque lost. They jumped each other.
Yep.
Last year, I can tell you now, Mangum having to go down to South Plaque made that a huge difference.
It did, yep.
So this year now, South Plaque has to go to Mangum. That could
Big
change some
point.
things. And I think, honestly, I know we're going to skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah,
to the
sure,
prediction
sure.
To the finals. My finals prediction is honestly Mangum-Haynesville. And I think that's going to be a game that should hopefully be packed out. I know it's small schools, but that'll be fun to watch. And I would like the Dragons to win a state championship this year.
Yeah, I actually got the same state championship as you do. I think Haynesville and Jeanerette will play in the semifinals if you look at the top side of the bracket. But I think Haynesville is going to be too much for Jeanerette, and I like that South Plaquemine's Mangum game. And I do agree with you. I think home field is going to be huge in that game. It makes a hell of a difference, I gotta admit.
Oh, yeah.
And for that playoff game in particular, I'm going to go with the same state championship, but I'm going to go with Haynesville pulling through. I think with Isaiah Washington being a senior for this team, going through the last 2 years and just trying to overcome that, I really like this Mangum football team. I had them go on a run last year, all the way to the state championship. But I'm going to go with Haynesville because I think, that was their goal, and I think they're going to be really focusing in on that, knowing they lost the last 2 years. But that can go either way as well.
It's fun when you look at this bracket, though. It's literally like the top of North Louisiana and the bottom of South Louisiana. Jeanerette's down there, South Plaque's down there, but there's not a lot in between. Like Logansport's all the way to the left part. Even Varnado's all the way to the right. And so it's all over the place here, but it's a lot of these small town communities where football means so much, and whoever makes it to the Dome, they'll have some good support with them.
Absolutely. Keep an eye on Faraday. I think they're going to make a run, and so is Elton. So that's going to be Division 4 non-select. Like I said, we won't go through these every single week. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Tommy's. Go Tommy's.com. Windows, doors, sidings, they get you covered. So go Tommy's.com. Only right way to spell go around here. GEAUX Tommy's.com. So make sure you go see them and go to award-winning customer service and award-winning service. Go see Tommy's, and you'll see the difference clearly. We'll be right back after commercial break, and we'll go over Division 3.
Tommy's Windows, Doors, and Siding, locally owned and operated with over 20 years experience and dedicated to providing you with affordable options to transform any home or business. So call today, 225-250-8808. Go Tommy's, and you'll see the difference clearly.
Back to Ball in the Boot. Appreciate our sponsor, Tommy's Windows, for sponsoring our Ball in the Boot high school football Road to the Dome show. Jason was alongside Spencer Verrett from the LHSAA Network, and this is another segment here. We're going to talk about Division 3. We're going to start with Division 3 Select, then go to Division 3 non-select from there, and we talk about Division 3 Select. Oh boy, they got some heavy hitters. There's a lot to talk about there, but we always start off with the team that's deserved it first. Is obviously the number 1 seed. So we get to talk about them a little bit more exclusively, and we're going to talk about the LCA Knights. Talk about a team that deserves a number 1 seed. It's definitely LCA because of their schedule this year. They're 9-1, the only loss this season to Archbishop Shaw. But you look at the other wins they've had, they being Rummel, Karen Crow, Westgate, Central, Lafayette Renaissance, Notre Dame, and Evangel. And obviously you got a lot of talent. Braylon Walker, the UOL commit, Oklahoma commit, Braden Allen, Luke Green, who made that big hit on Pop Houston in order to preserve the win over Evangel. They can run the football. They can throw it. They got a solid defense. They're well coached under Chop Standiford. LCA looks really great this year, and obviously looks like they're going back to those days when they were winning 4 championships in a row.
Yeah, this is about as good as it gets as a top seed. Lafayette Christian, I think, is the full definition. You've played a really, really tough schedule. You're come out of it 9-1. Now you're heading into the playoffs. You're the top seed. I think the only concern I maybe have with LCA is the fact that this week they're not going to get to play a game.
Yeah,
last week
true.
they didn't get to play a game. It's good that they get a 16-17 matchup and they don't have to go straight to Bunkie or Catholic New Iberia, whoever wins that matchup. But I really like the Knights this year. Like you mentioned, this is a really battle-tested squad. This is a squad with a lot of talent on it. And it's not just that, but it's a group of seniors that have really gone through it with this program. Last year did not go the way they wanted it to go. They were on that 9 seed and they made a run to the quarterfinals, ran into Dunham, but they kind of had a little bit of coaching change throughout most of pretty much their high school careers. So the fact that they stuck with it and stuck with the program, and now they're coming out with it, being able to see the fruits of their labor, and as seniors being named the top seed in the state, and really, honestly, like a lot of people, there's a lot of people talking about this Knights team and how good they are, and I can tell you now, there's a lot of people that expect them to make the run to the Dome, and I think they expect that out of themselves as well.
Absolutely, for sure. We'll go and talk about the road to the Dome through Division III Select. Obviously, LCA gets the bye. You talked about it. They'll play the winner, Parkview Baptist and Darbone Woods Charter. Like you mentioned, 2 basically bye weeks for LCA to really look at the winner of this game. Catholic New Iberia, they are defending state champions from this bracket. They'll take on Glen Oaks in the first round, and the winner of that game will play Bunkie. Bunkie Catholic New Iberia will be a really intriguing second round playoff matchup. Dunham having a strong season. Elijah Haven, the number 1 quarterback in the country in the 2027 class, and a great defense as well. This may be Coach Warner's most complete team, but they'll take on the winner of Northlake Christian, Cam Casnave, and St. Louis Catholic, and the winner of that game will take on Dunham. Also, we have Newman at the top side of the bracket. They will have a bye. Jake Randall having a great season leading the way for the Greenies. And you saw them last week. We'll talk about it a little bit. But they'll take on the winner of Holy Savior Menard and Thomas Jefferson. If you look at the bottom side of the bracket, Jules Sumner, the Cowboys, what a season they've had. Undefeated season, one of the best seasons in school history, and have a chance to build on what they did last year and maybe make a run to the Dome. They'll have a bye, and they'll take on the winner of Slaughter Charter and Pope John Paul II. We also have Country Day, an explosive offense that can be really exciting to watch. They'll take on Beekman Charter, and then the winner of that game, guess what? You got Calvary Baptist in the second round, so that's going to be really tough. Cavaliers are going to be really tough this year as well. Lafayette Renaissance, just a young program, but definitely on the rise for sure. The number 7 seed earned a bye. And how about that matchup? It could potentially play a meet in the second round for another fun second round matchup. Will be calling this game on Friday for Varsity Sports Now. Episcopal will have a home playoff game. They actually won 4 of their last 5 games. They'll take on De La Salle's, actually a district champs this year. Should be a great first round matchup. The winner of that game will take on Notre Dame. So Spencer kind of talk about breaking down this bracket. Obviously, there's not a lot to go through, but really, like Division IV Select, a lot of really good teams in this bracket.
Oh yeah, Division III Select, they're always going to be some really, really good teams, But I think the top 8 seeds have really separated themselves from the rest.
Yeah.
You look at we already talked about LCA. You look at Notre Dame. That program is the definition of consistency. They're always within this top conversation, and being the 2 seed this year. You look at Lafayette Renaissance Charter Academy. That's another team that is having a really good year this year. They have only just become an LHSA school not too long ago. So the fact that they're already up there fighting with the big dogs is pretty good. Calvary, you mentioned, they've got a lot of talent, and they're also one of the only North Louisiana teams that got a top 8 seed in this bracket. So that's something to keep an eye out for. If Country Day wins that game, that's not a
North Louisiana bracket there.
That's not a friendly drive for them.
No.
Jules Sumner, 10-0 for the first time in a long time, I'm pretty sure. This is a really, really good season for the Cowboys. Can they keep it rolling into the playoffs? can they get to the semifinals? That'd be a really, really fun matchup with them and Notre Dame if that's what ends up happening at the top seeds. And then, Newman, Coach said after the game against South Platte, you guys remember when we lost 2 games, everybody said we suck?
Yeah.
You don't suck. You just won 6 in a row. You're the top 4 seed in the playoffs, and they earned it. Jake Randall, that kid's a stud. He'll take the Greenies as far as he can take them. He's got help around him, but I tell you what, Jake Randall, he gets a lot of the attention. Dunham, like you mentioned, another really, really good program. Neil Weiner does a terrific job with that group, and obviously last year's state runner-ups, and hopefully, they were only 4 yards away or something like that from clinching victory in that game, and they just fell short. And I'm sure they're using that as motivation. Bunkie. Yeah. Coach Hillman's been very adamant that not a lot of people thought they would be back here, but they're back and they're in the playoffs, and they've got by as well. Zion Lee's a great player. They play, playing the state champs, the defending state champs in round 2, though, would be really rough. Obviously, Catholic is not what they were last year, but they're still a really, really good team. That matchup, I've got that circled in round 2 as a possible go-see.
Yes.
And then, like we mentioned, Lafayette Christian. So I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I think Lafayette Christian can run the table on this thing. They're that good. They played with the best in 5A. They played with the best in 4A. Even 3A. Like, they can play with the best pretty much anywhere. I think the bottom half of the bracket is going to be really fun to watch. If I had to pick right now a team to meet them in the finals, I really like Calvary Baptist. Braylon Huglin is like a really, really good wide receiver, and I think they're playing some good football. I think that travel down to Jules Sumner might do a number on them, but if they can win that game and then have to come back down the next week and do it again against Notre Dame, I think they can have a really successful season. Mark Miller, the defensive coordinator at Calvary, is a really, really good coordinator. I got to meet him earlier this year, but they're having a really good year, and especially as a 6 seed, I think they could have surprised a lot of people.
Definitely, for sure. And maybe compared to last year, probably the favorite last year. Maybe a little bit more under the radar this year, and probably a lot more scarier because of that. They were flying under the radar. But we're talking about my predictions here. Same thing here. I have LCA winning it all. Just seeing them in person and just how balanced they can be. They can win the game multiple different ways. Really talented quarterback in Brandon Walker. They can, if they have to beat you and outscore you, they can. But they've shown like they contain Pop Houston as well defensively. So
just 22 points.
That shot me there. I thought I was going to get the over for sure, but did not hit there. But I'm really looking forward to, if this is potentially a semifinal game, get LCA and Dunham in the semifinals. Get your popcorn ready. That's going to be a great game. And I truly believe who wins that game is going to end up winning the state championship. Like you mentioned, Bunkie and Catholic New Iberia in the second round matchup. That'll be really cool. I think Bunkie will take care of business, though, against Catholic New Iberia to the quarterfinals, where they'll lose at LCA. I have done, like you mentioned, in the semifinals, but that can be a great game. Remember, like you mentioned, that LCA did almost have Dunham.
Yeah, they had
them beat, and Dunham came all the way back and won that game. I'm sure LCA won't forget about that. That matchup happens in the semifinals, like you mentioned on the other side. I do agree with you that the winner of Jules Sumner Calvary will go to the Dome. I just think it's Jules Sumner's year. So I'm going to go with Jules Sumner. I think this is one of those teams that, hey, this is a make or break year. This is all in. And they have that formula. You mentioned Calvary being explosive. This is a type of team that can slow the game down, play time of possession, just kind of ground and pound your way, and they can bully you as well. I'm going to go with Jules Sumner to meet LCA in the Dome, but too much firepower for Jules Sumner. I got LCA winning it all.
Question is, so you think that Notre Dame would make the semifinal?
I know it's kind of crazy so I have Notre Dame making the semis, yes.
Well, I will say the one thing about Notre Dame and Louis Cook's squad is if he's playing against a team that tries to run the same type of offense as them, he's really good at stopping.
Really good.
We saw it earlier this season at Southside. Southside really struggled to kind of contend with what they were doing, but to each their own, I guess. We'll see who ends up making there. We almost got a month till that happens, so the good thing is we get to savor in all these enjoyable playoff matches.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to break it down week by week, but just kind of like a 10,000-foot scope. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. But we are both in agreement that LCA is going to hoist the state championship trophy. So that is Division III select. Now let's go talk about Division III non. And it's time to talk about Division III non-select, and we'll talk about the number 1 seed, the Gina Giants, coming in with a record of 9-1 on the season. Well, they've been, in terms of scoring points, they have put up a lot of points this year. They've been averaging over 52 points per game. Daniel Hatcher, Cedric Wilson's been a really good 1-2 punch duo in the backfield for the Giants. And 9-1 on the season. I believe they're 1 loss this season. They got some impressive wins. They did beat Bunkie to ruin their undefeated season. I believe it was Tioga, I think, was their one loss this year. But talk about the Gina Giants. They've always been a really great, regular season team, and they've been one of those teams that when they hit like the quarterfinal, semifinal, trying to get over that hump of going to the state championship.
Yeah, in 23, that was the first trip to the semifinals for them, I believe, ever. Maybe even a long time. Coach Roark does a great job with that program. He's been there a long time. And, a lot of people have said this year is finally the year they can get over the hump. And I think the way the bracket has shaped up has really helped them out a lot. They avoided the St. James and the Sterlington. Obviously, Kinder and Erath are certainly no teams to be taken lightly. But the Gina Giants this year, tell you what, they passed the ball a lot more, too, than they have in years past. They got a really good wide receiver. Quarterback's making a lot of smart plays. But at the end of the day, they are the run-heavy team that they are. The only thing I'm worried about with them is the defense. The good thing is they're at home the whole time. The statement defense travels doesn't really apply since they only have to make one trip. If they make it all the way to the Superdome, that'd be the only trip they have to make.
Absolutely. We'll talk about this bracket. Let's see what the road to the Dome looks like in Division III non-select, at least for the first round is concerned. At least we get a lot of matchups, matchups to talk about in the first round. Gina, again, at number 1 seed. They'll take on the winner of Avoyelles and St. Helena for the second round. Marksville's having a good year this year. They are the number 9 seed. They'll take on Patterson. Mansfield will take on Winfield. So that'll be 8 versus 25. Talk about Erath, what a season they've had, undefeated season with Jack Landry at the quarterback position. Also, another guy who's will be playing in their Gridiron Football American Bowl game. They'll play the winner of Union Parish and Rayville, which should be a really interesting matchup in the second round. Pine, a team not to really sleep on either, as a 13 seed. They'll take on Kaplan in the first round. And Kinder will take on the winner of Pine and Kaplan. Look at the bottom side of the bracket. St. James, they are in the state championship. Actually, the 2 teams that were in the state championship are on the same side of the bracket this year. St. James has a bye. They'll take on the winner of Manny and Red River. Manny making back to the playoffs after a down years last year. We have Richwood. Give a shout out to James Taylor, the defensive coordinator over there. He's also a big help, as always, with our bowl game. They'll take on Caldwell Parish. Oak Grove, can't count out Oak Grove as well with Coach Ryan Gregory. They ended the regular season with a big win over Washita Christian. They'll take on Port Allen in the first round. Laurelville, they had a dramatic come-from-behind victory in Week 10 last week. Having a good season as well. They'll take on Ville Platte. Church Point has a very explosive playmaker. Jarrison Reese can be really dangerous. They'll take on North Webster as a number 10 seed. Donaldsonville, a stingy defense, will take on Westlake with a pretty talented quarterback and offense. That should be a good matchup there in round 1. And the winner of that game, good luck. You got Surlington in the second round. So those are your first round matchups and kind of what the playoff bracket looks like. First, Spencer, let's take a look at maybe like the top half of the bracket when you look at Division III non-select. What stands out most to you?
I think the team that stands out the most obviously might be the Gina Giants at the 1 seed, but Erath at the 5 seed's having a really, really good year. Like you mentioned, Jack Landry, the quarterback's incredible. Coach LeBlanc's doing a great job this year with that program. And, the 5 seed, they're unbeaten. They're not the only unbeatens up there.
Yeah,
Kinder's
Kinder.
also unbeaten as well.
Yep.
I think a quarterfinal matchup between Erath and Kinder, that would bring the fans out.
That'll be a great one.
Now, Union Parish at 12, a lot of people might say, well, don't sleep on old Union Parish now. We've got history of getting there. I don't think this is the same type of Union Parish team they've had in years past. I think there's been a lot of problems on the team this year, just trying to get things in order. I think they're really young this year, too. They've got some older guys in positions to help out, but I think a lot of the team's really young. I think Coach Pat said at the start of the year, he's basically got 5 new offensive linemen. The only guy who returns is Ari Slocum, who's really good, but when you got to break in a new O-line, and especially in the offense where that O-line is the biggest thing for them.
It is.
It makes it really tough. But we'll see. This is obviously the time of year that the Farmers put it together and they start running on all the way to the Superdome. But we'll have to see what they go through. The top half, if I had to pick a winner to come out of it, I really like Erath. I think they play a really good brand of ball. They can run it on you. They can pass it on you. They can play some stingy, tough defense. I think that matchup, if the semifinals does fall this way to where it's Gina and Erath in the semis, man, I'll take one ticket, please, right in the field, and I want to be watching that game because that would be really, really fun to get to see.
Guess what? I agree with you.
Yeah.
I like Erath a lot, and just because I think they can play a little bit more complementary football. You mentioned, talking to Jeff Palermo earlier, that Gina has had some trouble stopping other teams, and this is a really good offense, and we're talking about Erath, but what scares me is actually their second round playoff game, the Kinder game. If they can get by Kinder, I think it sets up pretty well for Erath to make it to the Dome. But I think that second round matchup with Kinder does scare me a little bit, but that should be a great matchup there. Gina, I think they'll make it to the semifinals, but I really like this Erath football team, especially what they did last year, and then kind of building off what they did last year at the top side of the bracket. Now let's talk about the bottom side of the bracket. It looks like we're not going to get that same state championship game, but a good chance we'll might see that one in the semifinals, though.
Well, a lot of people said whenever we were walking out of the press conference of that one that, hey, we'll see these two teams again next year. They return a lot. St. James, obviously, was a really young squad last year. Not a lot of people thought they would make it last year. This year, everyone's like, all right, St. James is making it this year. But, the brackets fall the way they do. They got to go and probably end up playing at Sterlington, which in 2023 was actually their semifinal matchup before they lost to Union in the Dome.
Right.
They went up to Sterlington, played a heck of a game, beat them. And actually, Sterlington said that game that they lost to St. James in 23 motivated that team in 2024, which helped them win the championship. Let me give you my first upset pick. I got Red River over Manny. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, why are you picking this game? Well, they just played in Week 10, and Red River beat them 34-6.
Yep,
so that's a pretty easy upset pick to call, I think, in my opinion. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
Red River's flown under the radar this year. They're a good team.
They have, and they obviously had a coaching change this offseason. And I think those players are playing really hard. Playing a district opponent in round one obviously is going to make things a lot easier. It's not easy to beat two teams or a team twice in the same year. But when you hammer them pretty good, I think that'll help out a lot. But the present is you get to go play St. James. So I think right now too, another team I'm leaving out is obviously Oak Grove. They're really, really good. Obviously not the Oak Grove of years past. I don't think they're as good as they were in the past couple of years. But last year they were even sitting down in that. I think they were maybe a 3 seed last year. And they ended up running into Sterlington, and obviously we know what Sterlington did last year. But this is a really tough bottom part of the bracket to call. Mostly when you get to the semifinal game. I think everything up until the semifinal you can pretty much call. I think St. James and Sterlington are going to meet in the semifinal.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think whoever wins that game is going to win the state championship.
I do agree with you there as well. I can definitely see Oak Grove splitting up the party. They can probably ruin this whole thing and beat St. James in the quarterfinals. But that's a great matchup. I'm going to lean, I went back and forth with this, but I'm going to go with St. James. I think St. James, like you mentioned, there was motivation for Sterlington last year. I think losing the Dome for St. James, same thing. So I think now it's tough, though, because it looks like they may probably have to make the trip up to Sterlington, the number 2 seed, but I'm going to go with St. James. I like what I see for their quarterback, Villanova as well, their playmaker, and I think they're going to get it done this year. I'm going to have St. James playing Erath in the state championship, and I'm going to go with St. James.
That'd be fun to watch. You know what? I'm going to agree with you, Jace. I think St. James has struggled with the type of offense that Sterlington runs. But I think as we get older and older, you have to be able to pass the ball in today's day and age. I might be wrong. I may be dead wrong. But the other night I did see Edie
Yep.
White throw the ball about 4 times, which I didn't see much last year. Union Parish has been throwing the ball a lot more.
Yeah.
I even think Sterlington's been throwing it more. So, I like right now, if I had to pick, give me St. James and Erath. And then I think St. James can get it done, but we've said that in years past, and we've been wrong before, so I wouldn't be surprised if someone else could surprise us in this bracket.
I mean, Coach Lee has proven us wrong before over there at Sterlington, that's for sure. So that is our Division 3 playoff preview. The road to the Dome. We'll be right back after this commercial break to talk about Division 2.
Tommy's Windows, Doors, and Siding, locally owned and operated with over 20 years experience and dedicated to providing you with affordable options to transform any home or business. So call today, 225-250-8808. Go Tommy's, and you'll see the difference.
Welcome back to Ballin the Boot. Jason Lejeune alongside Spencer Verrett, and now we're going to talk about Division 2. We're making our way up there as we go through the show, and we're going to talk about the Division 2 bracket, and guess who's back? St. Charles Catholic. So last year, just kind of throw that out the window. They're back to their normal selves. A great season this year, led by Coach Wayne Stein. 9-1 this season. The only loss was that wild one against the team we talked about on previously in the commercial break, St. James, and a game-winning play from the Wildcats, last play of the game. But St. Charles Catholic, they have a great workhorse running back, Skylar Edwards. He's actually going to play in their bowl game at the end of the year. They've had their defense, just well played. They defeated Dunham, really frustrated Elijah Haven. That's really hard to do. They did that. In 6 games this year, the defense has given up 7 points or less in 6 of their 10 games this year.
That's rare nowadays.
So, yeah, really rare nowadays. But I don't think there's a team just for its X's and O's that's always disciplined and well coached as a team like St. Charles Catholic.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like you mentioned, Coach Stein does a great job. And it's good to see them back. Last year was a little weird seeing them. Hey, look, they're struggling. I think they were like 0-5, 0-6, or maybe something like that. And they started putting together towards the end of the year and just fell short in the playoffs. This is going to be a really fun bracket to watch, and with them being at the top, them being back, obviously they were Division 3 select. Last time they won a state championship, so when they moved up, a lot of people were wondering, can they still compete? And being the top seed is certainly an indicator that, hey, look, we can't compete here. And I think Coach Stein's got a really good program going, a really good season going. But we'll talk about it here shortly. They've got some dogs to go through to get there.
Oh boy, do they! Especially that top half of the bracket, and we're going to talk about that. So this is the road to the Dome for Division 2 Select. Obviously, St. Charles Catholic has the bye. They'll take on. They'll be watching, anticipating LB Landry and Northside. The winner of that game will be playing St. Charles Catholic next week. St. Michael, another home playoff game for them. They did lose last year. It was a big upset when they lost to Archbishop Hannon, and so I know in their new stadium, this will be their first playoff game in their new stadium. So I know they're really excited. They'll take on LaRonger in the first round. Talk about Edie White before we start. We're going to talk about them in a little bit, but a great win over Vanderbilt Catholic to end the regular season. Madison Prep, they'll have a bye. A great season this year, especially against some top competition. They played at the 5A level. They had some big wins over some 5A teams this year. They'll take on the winner of John F. Kennedy and Frederick Douglass in the first round. Booker T. Washington is having a great season up there in Shreveport, flying under the radar. Estruma, they'll host them in the first round. U-High back in the playoffs after everything that happened last year. The U-High Cubs will continue their revenge tour after last year. And then we have Lake Charles Prep. They're really explosive and as dangerous as they come. They'll take on the winner of Leesville and Kenner Discovery. And then you look at the final, actually at the bottom side of the bracket already. Vanderbilt Catholic will take on the winner of Carver and Livingston Collegiate. I believe that might be, I think that is a Thursday game, playoff game, I believe. And then we have Archbishop Shaw, the defending state champions here, coming in at the number 7 seed. A little bit of an up and down season this year for Archbishop Shaw. They have some impressive wins. They defeated St. James, they defeated LCA, but they've also gotten shut out the last 2 games. So we'll see what Archbishop Shaw team shows up. And then, Patrick Taylor. How about Patrick Taylor hosting a playoff game? They'll take on Bel Air. The winner of that game will take on Loyola Prep. I forgot to mention Archbishop Shaw will take on the winner of Haynes Academy and Averson Sci Academy. And you have Loyola Prep taking on the winner of Patrick Taylor and Bel Air. And keep an eye on Bryce Resovich. He is a fantastic quarterback up there in Shreveport. 45 touchdown passes this year. Only one loss this season to North DeSoto as a number 2 seed. So, Spencer, let's before we talk about the bottom side of the bracket and those Flyers, let's talk about the top. You talked about the heavy top side of the bracket when we talk about St. Charles Catholic and company.
You look at the top 4 teams here that have the bye on this one here. St. Charles Catholic, E.D. White, Madison Prep, and U-High. U-High, obviously, with everything that happened last year, they've been motivated this year. They've got a really good squad. Madison Prep's got a really good squad. Madison Prep U-High rematch would do numbers for the viewerships of that and everyone that would have their eyes on it. And E.D. White played in the Dome last year. Mm-hmm. You know, they had a rough start to the year. I think they started at 0-3.
Yeah.
And they lost 3 really close games. But this team has rallied. Coach Lasane's done a great job there. And, like you mentioned, that win over Vanderbilt Catholic last week was huge. They ended their perfect season. But you gotta go through you gotta beat the best to be the best. You gotta go against number one St. Charles. I'm sure all those guys are. This is just gonna be such a fun bracket, and regardless of whatever the semifinals are, it's one of those where we can even look at the quarterfinal and say we're going to have some hecking good matchups in this one. And then whatever ends up to be the semifinals, that's going to be 2 battle-tested teams that end up making it there. You never know. Maybe some other teams can make a run, but I really like the 4 teams that have a bye on the top half.
I really do. I mean, you look at St. Charles Catholic and E.D. White, it's kind of looking at a mirror. I mean, as far as what they really want to do, what type of style of football they want to play. I do expect it to be a quarterfinal matchup. And I called this game in the regular season for the district championship, but Madison Prep and U-High. And I did mention on the broadcast, would not shock me to see that matchup once again in the playoffs. Really good chance you might see that again as U-High won that game 14-8, and it was only one offensive touchdown that game, but U-High won the district championship. Could very well see that game again in the quarterfinals. So that is the top side of the bracket. And my semifinal matchup, before we talk about the state championship and the bottom side of the bracket, I'm gonna have St. Charles Catholic making the way playing against U-High in the
little
semifinals.
Throwback, right?
Yep, of course. I mean, you have those 2 teams again, and we'll talk about state championship and all that. But at least for the top side of the bracket, I know it's tough to be a really good team twice, and that's what U-High is going to have to do against Madison Prep. But I do like the mold as U-High football team.
You know what, Jason? We have to disagree with you there. I think St. Charles will make it to the semifinal, but I like Madison Prep. It's like you said, it's really hard to beat a team twice. I don't think Madison Prep was very happy with the way they played on that night. They'll turn it around. I think they'll get the win over U-High, advance to the semifinal. It's really hard not to say E.D. White because I really think they play a really good brand of ball for this time of year. But give me St. Charles against Madison Prep in the semifinals.
Okay, would not be shocked either way. Let's go to the bottom side of the bracket as well. We talked about Loyola College Prep. Bryce Resovich is having a fantastic season. They're explosive on offense, and they've had some very fun games. The North DeSoto game, the Northwood game they had last week, but kind of a new face, right? And we're talking about Archbishop Shaw being in the mix as well. What do you think about the bottom side of the bracket, and how does it look like for the Flyers?
Tell you what, they're carrying the flag for Shreveport, North Louisiana in this bracket. Like you mentioned, Restovich, he's having a heck of a year. The kid's stellar. Obviously the only loss on their schedule is that match with North DeSoto, which him and Delafield, they balled out that game. Shaw's having a really up and down year. It'd be interesting to see when they come back. Obviously, they get the bye week this week to heal up. Coach Hank Tierney is a great coach, and right now I like Prep and Shaw to make the quarters. Yeah, that would be a fun final matchup. I like Prep to make the semis. And now the good thing is that next top above them. There's some good teams. Don't get me wrong. College Prep's having a good year this year. Lake Charles College Prep is having a good year, and Vanderbilt Catholic's obviously 9-1 on the year. Yeah. But I really would like to see who makes it out of that top half. I think there's some intrigue there on who would actually win that 3-6 matchup or whatever the matchup ends up being. Because I think whoever does win that matchup, you've got a really, really good offense in Loyola Prep that you have to go see. Yeah. I like Loyola Prep to make the Superdome this year.
I do too. It's a little bit of a question who they play. in the semifinals. I think their biggest threat is Shaw, especially if you see the Shaw team that defeated the LCA this year, the same Shaw team. But that's kind of what you get this year, a little bit of a rebuilding year, and you kind of seen some up and downs with that Shaw team this year. The team that defeated St. James earlier this year as well. But I like Loyola Prep. I like the consistency that they've shown all year. The offense, the power. I mean, the fireworks they can throw on the offense. You gotta have yourself a really good quarterback to make a run. They obviously do that in Bryce Resovich. I'm going to go with Lake Charles Prep. I think Lake Charles Prep's been really explosive this year. I think they will meet Lake Charles Prep in the semis, but I think we're going to see St. Charles Catholic. I think we'll see Loyola Prep in the Superdome.
I think we'll see Madison Prep and Loyola Prep.
Oh, okay, all right. So you have Madison Prep not only being UI, but also St. Charles Catholic.
I do. I think their offensive line is their strong point, and I think the trenches is so important come time for playoffs, and I think they can really do some numbers. I know UHI's got some good offensive linemen too, including Lamar Brown. You know what? I've got a feeling. Sometimes you just have a feeling, and I'm a believer in the Chargers.
Okay.
I got a feeling the Chargers are going to make a run here.
Okay, so we're different there. But who do you have winning the state championship game? Do you have Madison Prep, or do you have Loyola?
I've got Landry Williams and Madison Prep winning the state championship game. 5 seed. I know it might be an off-the-wall pick, but I really like what Madison Prep has done this year. I think they've got a good squad, and if they can keep everything together and stay healthy, I like what they're doing.
And I do like that because of the non-district schedule they played. I mean, look at what they did in the non-district. They defeated a 5A Dutchtown team. They defeated a 5A Mandeville team this year. Their only loss was a Massachusetts High was 5A Southside, 35-22.
Against Southside, you got to think about the fact that Southside runs an offense that, unless they hit Edie White, you're not going to see that offense, really.
Right.
That's a different type of offense that, the Sharks run, and so I think that might have played into it, but I'd be intrigued to see who, that top half is going to be so fun to watch. Whoever makes it to the Dome is definitely going to have earned their spot there, and I think whoever makes out the top half wins it all.
Well, I got St. Charles Catholic winning it all. I mean, Wayne Stein, when they get to the Dome, they're really tough to beat. I mean, the only time I've seen them lost in the Dome under Coach Stein was against Calvary Baptist a couple years ago. But they just know what it takes to get there. They're experienced. I like the teams that know exactly where to go, what gate they need to go to, what locker room they need to go to. They're familiar with what they need to do. And obviously, St. Charles Catholic is familiar. I like their running game. I like their defense. And to me, defense travels, your running game travels, and I think that formula is going to help them when the weather gets cold, it gets a little sloppy out there, and St. Charles Catholic knows how to win these games. And they fare really well against really good quarterbacks over the years. Arch Manning, look at Elijah Haven this year as well. So it's going to be tough to have a plan against Bryce Resovich and how he's been playing. But if there's a team that can do that and prepare for a great quarterback like Bryce Resovich, it's a team like St. Charles Catholic. So we disagree there, but I won't be shocked if any variation of that will be representing the Division II Select. So
I'm calling Division II, both of them, the Select and non-Select, divisions of chaos, because we've seen the Division II non-Select 18 seed one last year.
For sure.
And obviously we're gonna look at it here shortly, but it's another year where there's a lot of people who can win this division.
For sure. It's always like always call Division II non-select as like the Cinderella bracket, because there's always a chance for an Opelousas, Cecilia last year to make a run at a state championship. Can it happen, or will chalk hold? Well, in terms of chalk, North DeSoto is the number 1 seed. The Griffins having a great season. Luke Delafield, another outstanding quarterback for the Griffins. And we know Dennis Dunn, he's going to have himself a great quarterback, and another one under his, we can put it on his resume, in Luke Delafield. But they can run the football as well with Kenny Thomas. They probably have one of the most impressive wins this year. That win over West Monroe earlier this year, 10-0. North DeSoto having a great season. Remember, Luke Delafield start his prep career leading North DeSoto all the way to the state championship game, has a chance to bookend it in the senior year, leading them to the state championship game.
Yeah, these Griffins are really, really good, and they're really fun to watch as well. And they like that fun in practice as well. You see on their Facebook a lot, so they'll have the coaches competing against each other sometimes.
I've seen that.
So it's fun to see when a team's playing good, and they get to have fun when they're doing it as well. I think that's the hallmark of a really, really good team. And, Delafield, what a quarterback this kid is. I mean, I got to go up there and see him in practice last year, and the way he handles himself in practice is really just incredible. He gets out there, he gets straight to work. He's commanding people around. He's making sure people are in the right places. He's got wide receivers that can make catches. He's got running backs that can make catches and also run the ball at the backfield. And they play some stingy defense as well. They're tough to break down. They beat West Monroe. I think that was before people realized how good West Monroe was. Right. And now that people know how good West Monroe was, I think that adds to it as well. But they're going to be tough to beat in this bracket, but there's some really big dogs in this bracket.
There is. Let's go and talk about this big dog, Spencer. So here is what the road to the Dome looks like in Division II non-select. Obviously, North DeSoto gets the bye. They'll take on the winner of the Ritter and Eunice. We have Jennings as a number 9 seed. They'll take on St. Martinville. We have number 8 seed Franklinton, defending runner-ups in Division II non-select. They do return their quarterback, Jacob Crane. Watch out for the Demons and Coach Nick Salterformaggio. They can make a run. They'll take on Rain in the first round. Plaquemine, another team with probably has just as much talent as a lot of other teams in this bracket. They'll take on Livonia as a number 5 seed. Minden will take on Wassman, 12 versus 21. We have to talk about double-digit seed again. Cecilia, number 13 seed. They'll take on Carroll. They're the defending state champions. We'll see what happens there as they take on Carroll. The winner of that game will take on Lakeshore. If it's a Cecilia-Lakeshore matchup, that'll be very intriguing in the second round. Bell Chase, Coach Myers and Bell Chase having a great season this year for the Cardinals. They have the bye and deserve it as the number 3 seed. They'll take on the winner of Pearl River and Opelousas, 14 versus 19. Coach Terry Miner in his first year at West Feliciana, they have the number 11 seed. They'll take on Bossier, the number 22 seed. Bruley having a great year, 9-1 this year for Hofschooler and the Panthers. A really good defensive team this year in Bruley. They'll take on Albany as the number 6 seed. Franklin Parish, talk about a team. Keep your eye on Franklin Parish. They can make a run at this whole thing. Probably as talented, probably maybe even the most talented team in this bracket here. But they'll take on Abbeville as the number 7 seed. Lutcher, another team as well. Man, we see Franklin Parish, Lutcher second round. That'll be a great matchup. Lutcher will take on Iota as the number 10 seed. Northwest, they've made some deep playoff runs in the past. They usually get hot around this time of year. Kevon Johnson at running back. They'll take on South Terrebonne as the number 18 seed. And then Iowa, undefeated this year under Coach Tommy Johns. And we'll see how good Iowa is after an undefeated regular season. So Spencer, a lot of teams that could make a run at this. It's always been kind of a wild card type of bracket. But let's talk about the top side of the bracket first. Do you have North DeSoto making the run to the state championship, or what other teams do you think can get in their way?
Well, I'll start off by saying I think North DeSoto is the team that's going to get out of this and make it to the state championship. You talk about teams that might be able to get in their way, though. Lakeshore, Plaquemine, both having really good years this year. Lakeshore and a coach Indest. He knows how to win, and he knows how to win a state championship, and he knows how good his team can be this time of year. Tell you what, I'm going to put another game on upset alert. I think Wassman's having a really, really under-the-radar type of year this year. And, Minden's from the Shreveport area, a little Shreveport-Monroe action. Give me the Wassman Wildcats in the first round.
Okay, I like it.
Now, I think Plaquemine is a team that's really hungry after last year. They obviously ran into Cecilia in the semifinals, and they played them a great game. I think it's so tough to pick who North DeSoto is going to meet in the semifinals. I'm bouncing right now in my head between Plaquemine and Lakeshore and trying to figure out. And I think right now I'd pick the Green Devils of Plaquemine to make it to the semifinals and play against North DeSoto, where I just think Luke Delafield and that Griffin's offense would just be too much for them. But these are some good teams in this. Obviously, like I said, this is the Chaos Division. Anything can happen, and you never know. Maybe someone like a double-digit seed can once again throw together a crazy run. Never count out Cecilia. Braylon Colley is a really, really good running back. He's the real deal. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that one. But I think the bottom half too is going to be really fun as well.
Yeah, we talk about the top side. I like North DeSoto going through. I think they're that good. Now Plaquemine, I think, has the athletes to kind of make it, and the defensive guys to make it tough for North DeSoto. I do think they'll make it to the semifinals. I'm very intrigued, maybe by like a Franklinton with Jacob Crane and Luke Delafield in the quarterfinals. Could be a great quarterback matchup. But I do think that North DeSoto will be able to find their way to the Superdome. But they'll get some challenges, I think, along the way. Now the bomb side of the bracket, kind of looking at that, I think it's going to be pretty interesting who's going to make it out this bomb side of the bracket.
Yeah, just going on a matchup by matchup. Belle Chase being at the top of the bottom, 3 seed, they're having a really good year. They beat Shaw.
Yeah, they did. Shaw
played
out.
really close with St. Charles Catholic as well, which is was something that caught my eye. Playing Pearl River and Opelousas. I don't think these are the Opelousas of years past, so I think Pearl River probably advanced there, and I think Belle Chase will be able to handle business. Westfell, Coach Terry Minor, he's a great coach. Tell you what, he knows what he's doing out there. I like them to beat Bossier. And then their game with Bruley was really close this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It came down to the wire, and it's really tough to beat a team twice in a year.
Mm-hmm.
I really would like Westfell to make the quarterfinals if they can pull that off over
that.
Bruley. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. 7 seeds, Franklin Parish and Abbeville. I think this game would probably go in the way of the Patriots. And then the second round, you could match up with Lutcher. And like you said, that Lutcher-Franklin Parish matchup would be really fun to watch. Rams that are doing a lot of really good stuff right now. I like the Patriots though to win this. The Patriots my preseason pick to win it all, and I still think they're up there now. Then they would have to probably play in the quarters. Iowa, the team that bounced them out last year.
That's right.
And to tell you what, I would honestly say this year that Franklin Parish could do that. I think you use a lot of locker room material. Remember what happened last year? Remember when they came here and they beat us and they advanced and we had to go home and sit on the couch and watch them play? I think they could do a lot for you. So I would like the Patriots to honestly make it all the way to the semifinals where they would meet. I think Belle Chase.
Belle Chase.
Makes it to the semifinals, and then from there, chaos happens. I think Franklin Parish advances to the Dome. And we get a Franklin Parish North DeSoto game, which I think would be incredible.
I 100% agree with you on that. I think I was maybe a year too early on Franklin Parish. I think I had them going to the Dome as well last year. But, you get a lot of your guys. They're getting healthy now, too, and I think that's what's going to make them dangerous. They had a very impressive win to end the season against Tioga. That's been playing some great football this year. But your best players, right? Desarian Ellis and Trey Martin and Chris Ass and all those guys. All Division I guys. I think they'll save their best for the playoffs. That Lutcher game is going to be interesting. But I do believe that Franklin Parish is going to make it out the bomb side of the bracket, and will play, look at the top side of the bracket, North DeSoto. So that begs the last question. We have the same state championship matchup. Now, who do you have winning it all?
The North DeSoto Griffins. I just think this team is really, really good. It's kind of boring to pick the 1 seed, but a lot of the times the 1 seed is the 1 seed for a reason. And I think North DeSoto is having a really, really good this year. I think they can get it done, and then they can go get themselves some Whataburger patty melts. And,
there we go.
Have a little celebration there, and especially it'd be a great way for Luke Delafield to end his high school career.
I agree with you. Kind of booking it, right? He started off his career in the Dome. They lost to Lutcher and Lunch Winfield in that year in his first experience in the Dome. Being a senior, I think the story just writes itself. I do see North DeSoto getting back. Dennis Dunn playing another state championship to his mantle, this time with North DeSoto. I do believe the Griffins get it done this year, but a good effort from Franklin Parish that can make things interesting. But I do have the Griffins winning it all in Division II non-select. We'll take another break from our sponsor, Tommy's Windows, proud sponsor of today's show. And we got one more bracket to go through. We're pretty much, 2 more brackets, but 1 more class to go through. Division I. We'll find out what the big boys are doing after this commercial break.
Tommy's Windows, Doors, and Siding, locally owned and operated with over 20 years experience and dedicated to providing you with affordable options to transform any home or business. So call today, 225-250-8808. Go Tommy's, and you'll see the difference clearly.
Welcome back to our last segment, Division I. We're going to say the best for last. We're going to say the big boys for last up there in Class 5A. Jason Journey alongside Spencer Verrett, breaking down the road to the Dome for all these teams. So if you're watching, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We're over 20,000 YouTube subscribers. We're trying to keep that going. So thank you to everybody that's done that. And then follow everything. If you can definitely find us where we're at, just look above our heads right here. GridironFootballUSA.com is where you can find our website. All right, Spencer, talk about arguably, I wouldn't say arguably, just how they've been playing this year. Probably definitely the best team in Louisiana, at least for the regular season, and that is the Endicott Cougars. And they were dominant last year. They're probably just as dominant. I never thought I would say this, or just as dominant, or maybe even more dominant this year. 10-0 Catholic League. They ran through the table in dominating fashion. A really tough district. Bryce Brown, we can say, is the king of Louisiana high school football right now. He's really got the Cougars going. And talk about talent, they have it. They don't really have a lot of weaknesses. They're good with John Johnson at quarterback, Hollywood, and they got a great running back. They got great defense. Richard Anderson, the LSU commit, Aiden Hall. They're well coached. There's not a lot of weaknesses when we talk about Endicott.
No, there's not, and there's a reason the 1 seed. This is a team that came into this year and they're like, look, we're going to keep it going. Last year we were really dominant, and to come into this year and have that confidence, and then to be able to back it up on the field with the way they've beaten teams and ran through the Catholic League, which is really impressive again. And not just that, but the draw that they got will set them up with some really fun matchups as well. You kind of look at it. We'll look at it later on, but they'll have some great matchups. Like you mentioned, the players are there. They've got D1 talent all over the field. Yep. Some people in the spring game were like, this is basically like a Southland Conference team. Like, this is really, really good for high schoolers. And, this is a fun team to watch. Coach Brown does a great job. His whole staff does a great job, which I think is a big part of it as well. And the Cougars, they're up there once again, and they're the team to beat. They've got the target in the back, but that's where they like to be.
They're on the top of the mountaintop, and in order to be on the top of that mountaintop, you got to knock them off the mountain. So let's see who can do that, has the best chance at it in Division I Select. So Endicott, they'll have the bye, obviously. They'll take on the winner of McDonough 35 and Jesuit. So 2 teams that they are familiar with, the 16 and 17 seed. St. Paul's having a great year this year under Coach Sears. They'll take on Pineville, the host of the Pineville Rebels. They'll take on the Evangel Christian Academy, Pop Houston. If there's a player to watch out for, obviously the LSU quarterback commit, Pop Houston, had himself a fantastic year for the Evangel Christian Eagles. Ash, remember they were the team that went to the state championship last year, had that great undefeated season run before running into that buzzsaw that was in the car. But this time they'll take on the winner of Brother Martin and Liberty. Could be a really interesting first round matchup because Liberty has been a couple of really good teams this year. Hammond will take on Captain Shreve. Another intriguing matchup there with Captain Shreve's a very fantastic running back, and Hammond's got a great defense as well. The winner of that game, guess what? You got Catholic High in Baton Rouge in your first round. We talk about in the bottom side of the bracket, St. Augustine, Robert Valdez. He's been on the show a couple times this year, having a great season. Only loss this year was to Endicott on the top side of the bracket. We just had this game last week, Acadiana Karen Crow. That rivalry game will continue in the playoffs. Acadiana was a low-scoring game, like 21-14, I believe. Yep. Acadiana up on top. And Karen Crow's got a really great wide receiver, Chance Babineau, and quarterback Carson Gursey, who played in our junior high bowl game a couple of years ago. We have Rummel and Holy Cross. Rummel can be really dangerous. They're up on top in the car, 14-0. So Rummel can be an interesting team to watch out. They'll Catholic League matchup first round. They'll take on Holy Cross. Tioga, they have probably as exciting as any team out here. Been scoring a lot of points this year. Case Malone, Kervin Johnson. Keep an eye on the Indians. They're the number 6 seed. John Curtis. Throughout the seed, they're John Curtis.
Yep.
They can always make a run and potentially could play St. Thomas More second round. How about that matchup in the second round, potentially, if St. Thomas More gets the job done against Lafayette in week 1. And then a Thursday game, I think one of 2 and really around the state of Louisiana for the playoffs. Riverdale and Bonneville, Andre Anthony doing an awesome job this year. I believe this is a district matchup, I believe.
They played last week.
Yeah, and Bonneville won that.
Yep, they did. And Bonneville was the lower seed.
It makes sense of that, but they'll get to play again. Riverdale will be the home team. And what a season for Turnlings Catholic. Alex Munoz having a great season. 45 touchdowns this season, and really a second-generation player. His dad is the assistant head coach at ULL, and you look at Turling's Catholic, Michael Corville, second generation there as well with his dad, Tony Corville, state championship winning coach himself. So this is your Division I select bracket, top side of the bracket. Basically, one question for you: you have in the car or you have the field here?
I got in a car. This is like we mentioned, this is a really good in the car team. I don't want to spend too much time on them, since we spent so much time on them already. But I'll go into some of the other teams. I think Evangel is getting there to being that really good program again. Obviously Pop Houston's really
Pop Houston
good.
against that defense is going to be fun to watch.
I would actually like the car defense to really slow down Pop Houston. They've got, Evangel's biggest weakness, in my opinion, is their offensive line. I don't think they do enough up front to stop Rich Anderson. Rich Anderson would be running all over the place for them. Ash and Catholic obviously would have some huge quarterfinal implications on who gets to go have their rematch with Carr, which they'd be hungry for. But Liberty, you mentioned them. They've got some big wins this year as well. I like Brother Martin, but keep an eye on Liberty, because I think they could maybe pull this upset as well. Quarterfinals wise, I think it'd be Ash against Catholic on the bottom side, Edna Carr and Evangel on the top side.
Sure.
Just kind of going with the seeding. Then you look at Ash Catholic. I actually like Ash to beat Catholic.
Okay.
I think that game against Neville wasn't their best, and to not play your best right before the playoffs, I think it maybe open up a little bit of things. Of, hey, look, let's lock in now. It's playoff time. We got to be ready to go. And so I like Ash to get to the quarterfinals and win that game, and end up in the semifinals against Edna Carr, where Carr would, of course, do Carr things. But I think it'd be a lot closer than last year.
I'm going to disagree with you. I have Catholic being Ash here. I think there's a team that I think there's a team that's really not intimidated and can really play within the car, and I feel like they have a great shot at beating them. It's a team like Catholic High. I mean, last year I called that playoff game, and Catholic was really, you can say, maybe 2 or 3 plays away from really beating in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, they were pretty much right there. I think Carr made a couple plays that made the difference. That is a tough quarterfinal matchup with Ash, but I like Catholic High. They're going to have the home game there, so I like Catholic to get through, Ash to play in the car, and I think that could be really the best shot, in my opinion, that and the car could go down. But you look at the bottom side of the bracket here. I mean, it is pretty interesting in itself, because Turling's Catholic having a great season. The win that they had against St. Thomas More will really open up a lot of people's eyes how good they really are. I think everybody knew that they were good, but I think a win like that indicate how good they really are.
The bottom half of the bracket, I'm kind of calling them the Carr possible teams that Carr could lose to. All got drawn on the bottom half of the bracket. You look at Rummel and John Curtis, they kind of operate in the same way. They're going to control the clock on you. They're going to try to generate turnovers. We saw Rummel take a lead on Carr. But they're both on the bottom half of the bracket, so that makes things a little bit more difficult. You mentioned Acadiana, Karen Crow. That's going to be a really fun first round game. Karen Crow, and they were tied actually in the last minute. Acadiana took the lead right at the end and ended up holding on. I think St. Augustine, obviously Coach Robert Valadez is a good coach, and he knows what he's doing out there with the Purple Knights. I'm going to tell you right now, though, the quarterfinal matchup on the top half, I think it's going to be St. Augustine against Archbishop Rummel, the 11 seed. I think they can beat Tioga.
I agree.
Move on to the quarterfinals from there. I think St. Augustine would win, move on to the semifinals, and the bottom half, John Curtis, St. Thomas More, you kind of mentioned that's going to be fun to watch if it ends up being that way. Riverdale Bonneville just beat them. It's really hard to beat a team that is really close. But Andre Anthony's doing a great job with that program, and I'm excited to see what happens in that one. Whoever advances does have to play against Turling Catholic, and I would like the Rebels of Turling Catholic to win that one. I think John Curtis and Turling's in a quarterfinal matchup would be really, really fun. The Patriots. Never count against JT Curtis. And in the semifinals, I would like St. Augustine setting up a Carr St. Aug rematch in the Dome. Where else would it be? Where else would it be? And of course, they're going to meet in the finals. I think those are the best. That's 1A and 2 in the state. I was about to say 1A, 1B, but let me give respect to Carr. That's 1. And then St. Augustine's 2, in my opinion, in the state. But maybe Charlie's Catholic's out to set me wrong. And then, of course, I'm going to let you make a pick here, but I think both of us are going to be in agreement that football state champion right there is going to read Edna Carr at the end of the year.
I do agree with that. I do agree with Edna Carr winning the state championship. I think that will beat Catholic. The bomb side, I really thought about this one through. But something tells me that John Curtis is going to make another run and they are going to get there to the state championship game. The reason is because I bet against JT. That's basically the only reason. I bet against JT Curtis too many times than I should have, and he's burned me every time. So I'm going to go for him. I really like John Curtis. Remember what they did last year? They had a losing record for the first time since like 1969 when he took over as a head coach, 1970. Looking at the early years of John Curtis, and all they did was make the semifinals. So
all they did.
All they did, and I think they'll make it a game further. Now, like I mentioned, you kind of threw out the records and everything out the window when Catholic League teams play against each other. I do think that's going to happen. I think St. Augustine's going to play John Curtis in the semis, but something about JT Curtis and that Veer offense. I got to go with John Curtis to play and the car in the state championship. These are two coaches you don't want to go against, but I'm going to go with Bryce Brown and then the Car Cougars.
It'd be fun to see. I know Bryce and JT have a lot of great respect for each other, and that would be a fun matchup to watch in the Dome. John Curtis is the type of team that I think Carr can struggle with, especially if they control the clock, make things interesting.
Yep, and I do agree with you that Rummel will beat Tioga, and Rummel will take on St. Augustine in the quarterfinals. So, but I do have
Tioga all the bulletin board material.
Yeah, exactly. So if they win, you can blame us two knuckleheads right here for picking against you. But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen, and we'll see if anybody can knock off the Endicott Cougars in Division I Select. We're going to go to our final bracket of the show, and that's a Division I non-select, and we got to definitely talk about this one. First, we start off with the Ruston Bearcats this year. Ruston, they did lose, I believe, Stephenville High School out of Texas was one loss, and they also lost within their district as well. That's only two losses they've had this year. I believe to Ash was the team that they lost to, but they took care of Neville, they took care of West Monroe, and it looks like that Ruston is going to be right back at it. But remember what happened last year. Everybody thought that Ruston was going to cruise the state championship until they ran to a buzzsaw in Central. And I think, that could be great motivation to get back there and this time prove people wrong once again.
Ruston's the number one overall seed, but there's a lot of teams that can claim to that. Because I'll tell you what, this division is deep, and I think that there's a lot of teams that can have a say and can make a run. If you play the right football at the right time, I think you can pull the upset on Ruston. As soon as the 9 seed, Terrebonne, I think they play in a really good brand of football. Coach Tyler Lewis is doing a great job. Got to watch out for the Tigers from Terrebonne, man. They're really, really good this year. They've had a couple losses in the past couple weeks. They did lose to Thibodaux and some other losses throughout the season. But, man, Ruston, they're always going to be up there. Jared Ball does a great job with that program. They're always going to be in that conversation. And, I'm sure they got a lot of guys. Even though a lot of those guys from last year graduated and moved on, I'm sure there's a lot of those guys in that room that want to get back to the state championship and try to win it this time.
Let's see what their path is. So this is the road to the Dome for Division I non-select. Ruston obviously will have the bye. They'll take on the winner of Westgate and Airline, and which will be an intriguing first-round matchup there for sure, 16-17.
Do the LHSA Network Game of the Week on Friday night.
There you go. LHSA Network Game of the Week. So there you go there, Westgate and Airline. You have Terrebonne. Tyler Lewis doing a great job with the Tigers. They'll take on Natchitoches Central. Brad Laird and Natchitoches Central in the first round. Southside, Jess Curtis has definitely got his imprint on the Southside program. They'll take on Prairieville, a dangerous team.
Having a
good year. Or the Hurricanes in their second year in varsity action. One of the seasons they've had, getting to the playoffs in 5A in Division I non-select. Central, the defending state champions. They'll start trying to maybe to get back, but in order to do that, they'll have to beat a team in city rival, in city team right there in Dutchtown, 5-28. East Ascension, when they're on, they're really tough. They're on. So we'll see what East Ascension team we get, but they'll take on West Washita in the first round. Zachary, a little bit of I guess underwhelming year for their standards, but they still have a home playoff game. They'll take on Salmon, 13-20. How about the season Brett Beard and the Denham Springs Yellow Jackets are having as a number 4 seed? Over 40 seniors on their team, led by the Goldman twins, and they're both having a great seasons this year. Destrehan, could definitely get there to the Superdome for sure in the bottom side of the bracket as the number 3 seed. They're playing some of their best football as of late. A fun first round match of Ouachita pairs, Santa Mont, 2 exciting quarterbacks, dual threat quarterbacks for both those 2 teams. That should be a fun one to follow in the first round. Hahnville will take on Slidell in the first round. That could be a fun one as well. Slidell's been one of the more improved teams from last year. Hahnville, great season this year for the Hahnville Tigers. Parkway, quietly, I believe, undefeated this year.
Well, they lost to Evangel.
They lost to Evangel. Okay, that's right.
They were 9-0,
9-1, but still, they were 9-0, pretty quiet 9-0 entering that game. They'll take on Covington, the number 27 seed. Northwood of Shreveport will take on Barb, and Northwood had to play North DeSoto and Lyle Prep, but still a great season for the Falcons. West Monroe, which has been a trendy team for really that middle of the season when they defeated Ash, when they defeated Catholic High. So they'll take on South Lafourche in the first round. Thibodaux will take on Mandeville. Another intriguing first round game. Coach Narcisse doing an awesome job with Thibodaux in his first season as a head coach. The number 2 seed, the Neville Tigers. So, of course, that 2-5A district really dominating this playoff bracket.
Yeah, they dominate the conversation every year. You know, we're looking at the top half of the bracket. Obviously, Ruston's there. But they didn't have a lot of their friends make that side of the bracket. They'll get a little bit of a different experience. Obviously, like we mentioned, Westgate Airline, LHSA Network Game of the Week on Friday night. That's going to be really fun to watch. I'm excited to see if Airline can bring down that high-powered offense and take on the Westgate Tigers, who have a really solid defense.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, Central trying to make their run back to the state championship game. Not a lot of people expected them last year. Well, They made the run last year and they ended up winning it all. And Coach Semino does a great job with that program. And what about this for a second-round matchup? If East Ascension is on,
they are tough.
They're tough to beat.
They are tough to beat.
A Central East Ascension matchup would be really fun to watch. A Zachary Denham Springs matchup, too. I'm being a little bit of a Baton Rouge homer right here, but those are some good matchups in Baton Rouge, and between 2 different districts as well. And kind of just staying on the top half, what I think is going to happen. I think Ruston will make a run to the semifinals. I think there might be some chaos, but give me Central to make a run to the semifinals. Get Ruston semifinals.
Yeah, I like that.
Against Central.
I like that. I'm actually going with that too. Ruston Central. I think it's just sometimes it just writes for itself, like I mentioned earlier. Like, of course, how that game ended in the Superdome. Fast forward to next year, in order to get back to the Dome, you have to beat the team that embarrassed you in the Dome last year. So I do believe that Central's going to go on a run, a little bit of a run to the semis. I do like that semifinal matchup with Ruston and Central.
Yeah, and you look at the bottom half of the bracket, Destrehan sitting at the 3 seed. That 14-19 matchup, Ouachita Parish Santa Mont, that's going to be fun to watch. I'll have my eye on that one for week 1. Hahnville Slidell is going to be a really good one as well. Slidell's playing some great ball this time of year. Parkway and Covington, I think some of the Shreveport teams might be a little higher seeded than they probably, I wouldn't say deserve, but they probably might be not as high as they think. I think Northwood Shreveport at the 7th seed, upset alert. I think Barb can beat Northwood Shreveport. The big thing is offense doesn't travel well. But I don't think Barb has much of a defense. But they have a really explosive offense.
They can score. They can score
They
points.
can score some points.
Yeah.
I think if it becomes a shootout, I like the Bucks to win that one. And then regardless of who wins that game, I think they run into West Monroe. And I think the 10 seed West Monroe, they're maybe underseeded on where they should
agree.
be. I actually like the quarterfinals to be West Monroe against Neville. A rematch of that game that was so good. They've had a lot of really good games in the past, and to have that in the quarterfinals would be really fun. To have a semifinal chance to go play, in my opinion, I like Destrehan to make it to the semifinals. You make it past that first game with Ouachita Parish and Santa Mont, that'd be a tough one for them. But I think that next game could be a little bit easier. I think they'll play Hahnville actually, and we'll have another rivalry matchup.
Rivalry matchup. I have that
in the quarterfinals as well, and that'd be really fun to watch. That's one of the best rivalries in the state. So, but they got to get there first, and out of that semifinal between or quarterfinal, I guess, between Neville and West Monroe. I like the Tigers. I think they're playing a really good brand of football this time of year, and then regardless of who they play, and I think they would play Destrehan in the semifinals based on what I'm thinking. I like the Tigers again, though, to make it all the way to state championship game. We get a Ruston Neville state championship game, which I think, based on how the game ended this season, with Ruston making that miraculous comeback, it's just right that we get this matchup.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ruston for sure. I'm on having them be in Central in the top side of the bracket. We look at the the bottom side of the bracket where I can get there. I like how Destrehan has been playing as well. Destrehan has been playing some of their best football as of late. They've been scoring a lot of points. When their offense is on, it's really hard to stop them. But they defeated Thibodaux last week, Hahnville. The stretch of wins has been pretty good. Captain Treve, a high-scoring game. I like how Destrehan is playing right now. I do believe they'll make it to the semifinals. I think Neville and West Monroe, that is going to be tough. It's kind of a flip them there too. I like West Monroe in this one because especially if they can show some of those games they played against Ash, when being Ash, being Catholic High. If that West Monroe team shows up, I like West Monroe to make the semifinals. And to be honest with you, I think they get back to the Dome. I think West Monroe is going to get back to the Dome this year. It's been a couple years, I believe, since the screen play from a couple from Zachary, Chris Hilton. So, and it's been since then. It's been a couple of years for West Monroe. New head coach, and I think a little bit new energy as well.
He brings the energy for sure.
He does. Maybe too much energy, but he does bring the energy for sure. Give me Ruston, West Monroe in the Superdome.
And then who would you pick out of those two?
I'm going to go with Ruston.
Okay.
I mean, I think Ruston, after what happened last year, I think they're really motivated to show and end it on a much better note this year than what happened last year.
Give me Neville.
Yeah, okay.
Neville.
All right.
Their last season in Division I, they're going to go out on top.
Okay, I like
For
it.
now. Until the next reclassification,
right,
and they magically have 100 more students in the back of 5A.
Exactly. So we'll see how that plays out. I wouldn't really shock me either way, be honest with you. That's how thin the line it is here. But Spencer, as we wrap up the show today, tell us, you already talked about the LHSA game of the week, but tell us what's going on. A lot of state championships going on, volleyball, cross country, obviously football, but tell us what's going on with the LHSA network.
Yeah, it's grind season for the LHSA network. We're getting ready. This week is obviously the volleyball state championships. I'll be out there probably Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday we'll be live on the LHSA network. Volleyball all day. You can download it on your TV app. You got a Roku, you got a Fire Stick, you got Apple TV. Just go on there, look up LHSA Network. If you need any help, you can go to LHSAnetwork.com. Or you can find me on Instagram, Spencer LHSA Network. You can DM me on there, and I'll help you get it all set up so you can watch some volleyball on Saturday. Take a little rest on Sunday. We'll probably have some football games running, get you ready for that second round games. And we'll have obviously our Friday night game of the week, Westgate Airline, which will obviously we're staying in the Lafayette area because we'll be there on the next day doing some volleyball.
Makes sense.
Then on Monday we'll have cross country, which is a full day of running. We start at 9 a.m. We run all the way till 3:45 is the last race when it starts. You watch it all on the LHSA Network TV app, and the LHSA Network TV app, in my opinion, is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You got sports. High school Louisiana sports all day long, and I tell you what, it's really fun. Go check it out. You can check out some of our shows on there. Steve Schneider does Around the Boot, where he meets with media members, talk about their local areas. I do Game Changers, which meets with a lot of coaches and athletes. We have the high school spotlight on Wednesday nights. It's really starting to click for us. It's not as busy as the time when we got soccer, basketball back-to-back, but it's really good to have all this going on right now, and I'm excited about the future and just continuing to roll.
Absolutely. You're busiest man in Louisiana high school sports. That's Spencer Verrett as well. So thank you so much, Spencer. Appreciate you spending some time with me today. And we'll be doing this every single Monday. Next week, because of cross country, might be a little bit of a Zoom version next week. But every single week, we'll guide you through week by week until we get to the Superdome. But it's been fun. I can't wait for this week. First round of playoffs. It's win or go home. So good luck to all the high school teams out there. If we picked you, please make us look smart. If we picked against you, just use us as bulletin board material to prove us wrong, because guarantee I've been proven wrong a lot. Many times for sure. So guys, thank y'all so much. Please subscribe, watch the show, follow us at GridironFootballUSA.com. Also, shout out to Tommy's as well. Thank you for sponsoring this show. Our Road to the Dome version of Ball in the Boot. We'll see y'all on Friday. We'll recap all of this on Facebook, YouTube. For Spencer Verrett, I'm Jace Lejeune. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next week on another Monday episode, Round 2 edition of Ballin' in the Boot.
Tommy's Windows, Doors, and Siding, locally owned and operated with over 20 years experience and dedicated to providing you with affordable options to transform any home or business. So call today, 225-250-8808. Go Tommy's, and you'll see the difference clearly.